conspiracy culture has changed significantly. But could it be that there is a conspiracy behind these changes? Could it be that the powers that be are now using conspiracy culture to work for them rather than against them? I was first introduced to conspiracy culture by the pre-internet age paperback book, The Illuminatus Trilogy by Robert Anton Wilson. If you're a fan of out-there literature, then it's a great read. The Illuminatus Trilogy introduced me to a world where brave, free-thinking heroes battled the evil Illuminati with carefree humour and a yellow submarine. It presented fighting the Illuminati as fun, optimistic, liberating, fascinating, exciting and funny. Essentially, everything that the Illuminati was not. In a sense, conspiracy culture at that time was part of a counterculture scene which involved various alternative and liberating viewpoints. But now, largely, in the internet age, this is far from the case. If anything, most of the conspiracy culture that you can find online today is the direct opposite of that. It's po-faced, pessimistic, restrictive and apocalyptic. It serves far more to restrict the lives of those that follow it rather than to liberate. It is really what you might expect it to be if the Illuminati themselves had created or warped it to suit their own agenda. Let's suppose that at some point the conspiracy culture was infiltrated and distorted by those who were part of the conspiracy. Let's take a look at how it changed and why it might be in the Illuminati's interest. These days, in conspiracy culture, the spectre of Christianity has become obligatory. It appears its cosmology and prophecy has become the standard framework by which all of the other various strands of conspiracy theory are understood. But does Christianity illuminate or obfuscate the truth in this case? Christianity is in fact relatively new to this fight. Before conspiracy was co-opted by the American religious right, the Illuminati was already being fought by various occult groups. And the notion and concept of the Illuminati comes into public knowledge from these sources. Originally, it was an occultist versus occultist fight, freedom against repression. The general public had no idea that this was going on behind the scenes for hundreds of years. Because occultists, like conspiracy theorists, are people who do not accept the bogus reality pushed on us by society, and search for hidden meanings behind things. The curious thing about belief is that it affects the way a person who holds it sees the world. They develop confirmation bias. Confirmation bias, also called my-side bias, is the tendency to search for, interpret, or remember information in a way that confirms one's beliefs or hypothesis. It means if a person already holds the conclusion of Christianity, then they will only gather information which supports this, and will not see things as they are. From the Christian interpretation, the Illuminati was represented as Satanists, preparing the way for the advent of the Antichrist. But how much evidence is there to suit this claim? The far-right Christians tend to conflate and simplify the world into two camps, with Jesus or against him. In that way, any religious or spiritual practice not biblical in origin or specifically part of their own particular denomination can be viewed as satanic, but there are vast swathes of the populace to whom Jesus is simply an irrelevancy. The various groups that have been connected to the Illuminati, such as the Bavarian Illuminati, Bilderberg, the Trilateral Commission, Bohemian Grove and the Freemasons, have all variously been accused of Satanism, with very little evidence to support this claim. For example, the Bilderbergers and the Trilateral Commission members seem to be merely concerned with business and political interests and have nothing to do with religion. Adam Weishaupt, the fabled founder of the Illuminati, stated his goals as being anti-religious, as in pro-rationalist, anti-superstitious. He was an atheist and certainly didn't believe in Christian cosmology or Satan. His group sought to promote the doctrines of equality and freedom throughout society, to combat religion and foster rationalism in its place. One cannot be both rationalist and Satanist. When looking for curious and dark religious practices amongst Illuminati members, a good place to look would appear to be Bohemian Grove. On July 15th in the year 2000, Alex Jones infiltrated the camp and took footage of a ceremony called the Cremation of Care, wherein a human sacrifice in effigy was burnt on a pyre in front of a large statue of Moloch, the owl god. Moloch is an ancient Ammonite god of child sacrifice. The Ammonites were a pre-Semitic culture living in the Middle Eastern region at around 332 BC. Jesus was probably born around 3 BC, which means there is a 361-year gap between the worship of Moloch and the founding of Christianity. Moloch may not have been a nice guy, but he is as much Satan as the Buddha is Christ. The Freemasons have also been linked to the Illuminati and Satanism, due largely to a number of dubious reports from self-proclaimed ex-members, but this is incredibly unreliable evidence. Instead, it should be observed that the Freemasons surround themselves with both Egyptian and Rosicrucian symbolism. The Egyptian pantheon of gods, although may have some analogous components to Christianity when viewed in a very particular way, is also pre-Christian and unrelated. If the worship of Set can be considered Satanism, then the worship of Horus must be considered Christianity. They are both equally absurd propositions. Rosicrucianism, it may surprise you to know, is essentially Christian in origin. The word Rosicrucian comes from rosy and cross, the cross being the crucifix, a symbol of Christ. It has its roots in alchemy, a field which on the surface was about finding the philosopher's stone in order to turn base metal into gold, but in fact this was a metaphor to conceal their true reliefs. The base metal was themselves, the philosopher's stone represented Jesus Christ and his teachings, and the gold represented the purity of the Christian man. Alchemy may be a curious heresy, an odd sect, but is about as far from Satanism as it's possible to get. A key figure in the Illuminati conspiracy, who you have perhaps never heard of, is a man named Leo Strauss. Leo Strauss was a political philosopher of Germany in the 1800s, who espoused the Illuminati ideology publicly, that in his opinion, freedom and excellence cannot exist. That freedom itself was a detriment to society, and the only manner for excellence to be achieved was to have humanity submit. To whom was of little concern, as it wasn't the master that was important, but the submission itself. The group he founded made the decision to co-opt the cosmology of Christianity in order to use it as a tool of submission. One only needs a cursory glance at the American political reality today to see that Strauss's vision has indeed come to pass. Simply put, the Illuminati have done this before. They have used Christianity as a tool of infiltration, subversion and sabotage to undermine the principles of freedom and to get you to submit. To who, it doesn't matter. And Christianity has proven itself to be perfectly crafted to the task. With its black and white view of Christ, Antichrist, it has set up a false dichotomy in the minds of wherever it spreads its tentacles. The fallacy of false dichotomy is committed when the arguer claims that his conclusion is one of only 2 options, when in fact there are other possibilities. It's a system of only 2 options, but only one result. You choose Christ, or you choose Antichrist, but in the end, you must submit. And why is the influence of Christianity on conspiracy culture so dangerous? Mapping the Book of Revelations onto the Illuminati's plans plays heavily into the Illuminati's agenda. Another key phrase of the Illuminati is the New World Order. It is printed on the dollar bill and politicians regularly go out of their way to remind us of it. What if the New World Order is in fact the Now World Order? The dollar bill was designed in 1863. Do you really think that the New World Order would stay new for more than 150 years? What if we are in fact living in the Illuminati's regime today? If that were the case, then the belief that the New World Order is coming in the future means that we fight the change we actually need. What we want is a new World Order, where freedom is the highest virtue and enlightenment is available to all. Belief is how they control us, constructing false narratives to confuse us. So what do we do about this? The best way to beat them is to be nothing like them. They want enslavement, we'll be liberated. They want misery, we'll be joyous. They want hierarchy, we'll be anarchists. They want believers, we'll be solipsists. They want stagnation, we'll be change. They want materialism, we'll be spiritual. And in this way, we will fight them, and we will win.